Hello everyone and welcome to another evening with the women of F1. So tonight we're going to talk to Charlotte Hicks and Janet McCormick from the procurement side of F1. So we have Janet Hicks, who is head of procurement, and then Charlotte Hicks and Janet McCormick. Sorry, I've got them the wrong way around already. So Charlotte, you are category manager for F1. And Janet, you are the head of procurement. Yeah. So, Charlotte, do you mind just telling me a little bit about what your every day-to-day style is and what you do every day? But sorry, first, housekeeping. So, everyone, hello, from wherever you are. We're going to have a very, very interesting conversation tonight, and I'm very excited to learn a lot about procurement and what goes into it. So first, I'm Amy Martin and I'm a systems engineer at the University of Warwick. I was given the chance to have a look into the world of F1 when I was in the F1 in Schools competition. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I know we're all motorsport fans, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So tonight, these two lovely ladies are going to be giving us a little bit of what they actually do and how they get involved. So I want you all to ask as many questions. I know that you're bursting with them. And if you're not now, you will be when we start to get talking. So if you can please put your questions in the chat so everyone can see them, and we'll get around to answering them. First, we want to thank Motorsport UK, Formula One and Girls on Track UK for this excellent idea to allow everyone to have a look into what actually goes on behind the scenes. So now we'll get into it. Charlotte, if you can tell me a little bit about what you do every day and how it influences F1 in general.
Of course. So I'm a category manager within the procurement team at F1, and my category mainly covers marketing, which includes research, some social media, and I basically support them with their main activities, making sure they've got all of the agreements in place that they need, any kind of risk management stuff, commercial negotiations, and just kind of generally supporting across that area of the business, really, to make sure that they have everything we need and means we can get some really nice content out there.
Okay, that's lovely. And Janet, I assume that you and Charlotte work together because you're around the same area?
Yeah, so I'm head of the procurement team here at Formula One. Charlotte's part of the team, very important part of the team. And I sort of sit across the top of the team. We've got 2 senior category managers, 4 category managers, and a procurement admin. And we are looking after all the sort of procurement and supply management for pretty much everything Formula One needs to have cars going around the track, show races on TV. So it's pretty much we're squirreling away in the background, making sure that we get contracts in place with suppliers, that we are delivering value for money for the business, and that we're working strategically in partnership with the business to sort of move things forward.
So you say that there's around 4 or 6 of you in the category manager side. So I thought that would be a lot bigger. Is it because do you all have a specific place that you have to look after or tend to, or is there just everyone, everything really?
So we have it separated into categories of goods or services that people are buying. And within that, we have the category managers all have their specialism. So Charlotte looks after marketing and research, and we have category manager for IT. We've one for professional services. So everyone has their own specialism, but we work very collaboratively, and it's not unusual to be asked to sort of step in and support a colleague on, something that might be slightly out your comfort zone. But, it works really well, broadens everyone's sort of experience.
So we have so many grey areas, I think, as well, sort of in between bits where we might work collaboratively on one project because it sits across both areas.
So Charlotte, do you have a particular place that you look at, or are you?
So marketing, research, and social media are kind of my areas, but senior category manager, so I directly report into him, and he looks after the digital area. So it's not uncommon if there's some digital bits and pieces, or potentially some hospitality stuff that crosses over with social media content, for example, that I might pick up. It kind of varies, but they're my main areas.
So we have a question that's in already, and everyone please do send in your questions, and also please make sure that you have your camera on, because it'd be lovely to see you all, because this is very, very strange at the moment. So if everyone wants to give me a little wave, it would be lovely. So our first question is from Adam Collins, and he says he would be interested in understanding if Formula One as a business uses any technology to help with all of their sourcing activities, supplier compliance, or contract management. Very interesting question.
The short answer to that would be we have elements of technology that support it, but not one single homologated solution that covers all of that. So fairly manual.
So procurement is obviously a huge part of Formula One, and personally, I didn't really know what it was before tonight, so I'm very excited to learn a lot from both of you. So Janet, I was just wondering, did you always know that you wanted to go into procurement, or did you just tumble into it? I was just wondering.
Oh, I completely fell into it. Although I will say I think my path was kind of marked out, that maybe that's where I would end up. When I did work experience at school in my dad's office, I was in the purchasing department filing purchase orders for a week. So I think it was probably set out from there. After uni, I did various sort of admin jobs, and I ended up at the BBC and as a PA to the head of production sourcing. After 2 weeks, he said to me, "You're too good to be a PA. We've got a job coming up in the team. It's a career. We'll train you. We'll get you qualified. Why don't you do it?" And yeah, that was 14 years ago, and here I am now. So it's a funny one. It's not one that they say in careers in school. Have you ever considered a career in procurement? Most people I know fall into it. It's bit of one of those sorts of things. No one really chooses it in the first instance, I think, but you find yourself there.
So we've got another question in from, I'm very sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Gilash. Hi everyone, thank you for this amazing opportunity. Could you please explain a bit about how you decided that procurement/supply is the right career path for you? So Charlotte, do you want to take that?
Yeah, of course. So much like Janet, to be honest, I fell into it as well. I started working in a kind of a buying position and was sort of doing it was a very small company, so quite a lot of very miscellaneous activities. And then I was looking to move on and found the job that came up at Formula One, and kind of was just hoping someone would take a chance, because in reality I'd done my previous job for 4 years or so, and I wasn't actually trained to do anything. So I very much was extremely motivated and very enthusiastic, but not terribly kind of sophisticated in my approach, let's say. So I got that opportunity and decided that was what I wanted to do. I enjoyed buying previously, but I wanted something a bit more challenging, a bit more engaging, that was a bit more of a specialism, I guess, something that I could really invest time in. I mean, I study through Formula One as well, which is amazing, and I really enjoy it. So I think just the opportunity to develop a career in something I enjoyed and that would challenge me was something that kind of really made me focus on it as a career.
Yes, I'm very sorry, that was from Annette. I got the names mixed up. So Janet, what did you do originally? Did you do A levels, and did you go to university?
Yeah, well, I'm from Scotland, so I did Highers, and I came down here to go to university. I came to London to go to university. I did a psychology degree and fell out the end of that, and ended up working in a record shop, where again I think my path was marked. My job was being a buyer, and from there I ended up doing a variety of admin stroke sort of paralegal roles until I sort of ended up down the procurement career path.
So I definitely think from this we can say that procurement isn't always a thing that you know about, but you can definitely get into regardless of what you've done in the past. So Charlotte, are you the same? Do you have a degree in something related to procurement?
I didn't realise this before, Janet, considering how well I know you, but I also did a degree in psychology. So I went to
from psychology to procurement.
Yeah, I don't really, I think because you have to work so collaboratively with internal and external stakeholders, I think it can't help to have a bit more of an understanding about how people work. And so I went to uni pretty much straight from school in Bournemouth, which I absolutely loved. I really enjoyed my degree, but wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I got back. And so yeah, I have my degree in that, and I'm also studying for my MSITs, which should hopefully complete this year. So yeah, in terms of education, that's kind of where I've gone with it. I like learning, so the opportunity to study my SITs through F1 was amazing, and I love it's incredible that they've supported me all the way through that.
Very good, yeah. So we have another question from Lorena. What would you recommend are the strongest skill sets to build on to move into the role that you're both in now? So if you both want to give us some.
Janet, you go first.
In terms of skill sets, I would say, your absolute basics, just good computer proficiency, because you will spend a lot of time in your life doing pivot tables on Excel. But then just understanding how business works. So any kind of sort of basic overview of accountancy helps. Bit of contract law helps. All of those things are really great. But the great thing about procurement is you can do on-the-job learning. We have in our team at the moment, our procurement administrator, she's actually starting the apprenticeship scheme, and the government supports that. So she's doing the entry-level sort of level 4/6 qualification through that at the moment. So even if you don't have a specific skill set, there are ways to get into procurement. So you don't have to have a degree. If you have some office experience and some sort of administrative skills, that will help you as well. So there's nothing that really says you can or can't do procurement. There's ways in and many ways into it as a profession.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. I also think strong communication skills are very helpful.
Yeah. And negotiation skills.
Yeah, and a little bit of kind of mediation, and it's always good to have that kind of focus, to be not just business focused but also people focused.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, this is just something I'm thinking of. When you get to work, is there a specific job on your desk that you want to be there? Have you got a certain thing that you like doing, or that you like seeing the result, like the end result of?
I like working across different projects, but I also like the kind of day-to-day media agency type contracts and what's going on with the team in that. So I think they would probably all say that I ask an awful lot of questions about what's going on, not necessarily from a procurement standpoint, but because I'm just so interested in knowing what we're working towards, what's our marketing strategy for this year, promos before they're released, bits and pieces that I'm constantly asking. So, can you show me that? Or can you send me a copy of that? I really want to have a look at it. Those are the things that I probably look out for. But day to day, it sounds incredibly cliche and cringe, but I absolutely love what I do. And I love my category. I really like my stakeholders. I get on with them really well. So there isn't really one specific activity, I guess, that I would say I enjoy the most, but the integration with the wider team is something that I really enjoy.
And Janet, we have a question from Caitlin and Eva. What are your day-to-day roles? So kind of the same. What do you do every day?
Well, I don't think I ever have any 2 days the same. Currently, as we're all working remotely, I start the day with a team stand-up at 9. We just sort of set everyone's, we'll just have a chat about what everyone's got on their plate for the day. It just allows the team to sort of chip in if there's any sort of areas that someone might have, be stuck at or need a bit of input from someone else. Then it's generally sort of clearing down the emails. We've got quite a lot of project work on at the moment. We've got some large strategic projects going on. I tend to do the sort of the strategic and advocacy work to sort of across the senior management within Formula One. But I do support across some of the sort of technical projects as well. So previously within Formula One, I was the senior category manager in digital and technology. So I sort of help out in that area quite a lot, especially because we've got quite a heavy workload there right now. But yeah, generally I have meetings with some of the sort of other senior managers across the business, see what everyone's got coming up. And then it is a case of no 2 days are the same. It could be a day of I'm on calls because we've got suppliers presenting all day for large projects coming in, or it could be a day where I've got my head stuck in our purchase order system, just trying to sort of clear things down and make it a bit more manageable. But I think, to be honest, the variety is key. The variety is really exciting and really interesting, and also just sort of developing the team and moving the team forward as well. That's really important to me.
And as you've mentioned it, how has the coronavirus situation affected procurement in any way, or I assume it's affected you quite a lot with all the calls being online? But if you could just tell us a little bit about that.
To be honest, coronavirus was it was a really tough challenge for us as a team. I think we absolutely rose up to meet it, because when we're having races cancelled or postponed at short notice, we have to roll our sleeves up and sort of start renegotiating contracts, start trying to mitigate any costs going out the door, trying to stop money going out that we don't need to pay when we don't have cars going around the track. So actually, out of all the teams, we were really, really busy last year. We were just absolutely snowed, and it was almost like war games. As soon as it happened, we all sat around a table, worked out a strategy between us, worked out, if there were certain areas that needed extra help, because it was also race focused, that we needed to sort of put additional resource in there. And then we worked through it and we tracked all the work that we were doing. Then, of course, 2-3 months later, we were planning a return to racing, but it wasn't in the same format that we were doing before. So a lot of the stuff that we had in place, we couldn't just sort of revive these old contracts. We had to change it all. And additionally, we changed our broadcast system. So what we had in a sort of 2 to 3 year roadmap, we had to achieve in 6 weeks in terms of moving to a remote operations broadcast system. So it was all hands on deck. The upside of coronavirus, if you could ever call it such a thing, is it's actually opened doors to us from certain areas of the business who had to come and ask us for help that perhaps maybe had been slightly resisting of our charms up to that point. And it was actually really nice to see at the end of the year, I issued a procurement service survey just to see, how are we doing? How are we getting on? What do we need to do better? What was really good for you this year? And the feedback we got from areas that previously had very little engagement was overwhelmingly positive. So it kind of worked out for us. I absolutely would never wish it on anyone again, because it was, it's been a horrible year for everyone. For us, it's actually driven the team forward and actually got the maturity of the team up significantly in terms of sort of how embedded it is across the business from where it was at the start of the year.
I think we say a big thank you for everyone involved to allow us to go racing this year, because it was honestly incredible to see it. I think a lot of us thought it wasn't going to happen. So I speak for a lot of motorsport fans when we say thank you for everything both of you did and everyone behind the scenes did. And moving on from that, Kaylee actually asks, how has COVID particularly changed the purchasing and supply activities at F1? So Charlotte, do you have any?
So for me, the majority of sort of change in my area was the kind of more remote working. Ordinarily, we would also have a presence of suppliers and a portion of our staff on the commercial side of the business attending the races. That was all obviously unable to occur. So there was lots of adaptations to remote working, orchestrating social content remotely. So we also had a number of suppliers who would very frequently be going in and out of our base office in Biggin Hill. And it was just more contractually heavy, I guess, in just kind of navigating that space. I think for the wider team, there were a lot more challenging activities around sourcing things at short notice, arranging sort of a lot of our race logistics and things like that were particularly challenging. Coordinating the number of races that we managed to put on is difficult without COVID. And so I think it added that additional dimension of kind of, don't know really, maybe adversity is probably a good word for it, and really pushed the team just to, like Janet said, all hands on deck. We were just kind of pushing things around and trying to do the best with what we could do at the time.
I'd say in addition to that, there's a lot of change in protocols because of FIA regulations. So there were things that we'd never had to buy before. PPE, I mean, my goodness, I'm still getting about 10 emails a day from people on LinkedIn, can we sell you PPE? That just mushroomed overnight. But that we had to be quite strategic about again, because there was absolutely none to be found on the ground at the time when we were getting ready to go racing. So again, team all hands on deck, where do we source good quality PPE from? And then also for our suppliers that are travelling, there's FIA protocols that are in place. So we have to make sure that our suppliers are observing those protocols for health and safety reasons as much as the staff would be as well. So those sorts of things we'd never had to really consider so much before. Well, we won't be forgetting about a cancellation clause again, I'll put it that way.
I absolutely love this question from Ariana. What are some of your highlights of your time in F1 so far? So Janet, do you want to go first?
I went to the Italian Grand Prix in 2019, and that was an absolute highlight to see all these things that we've been having hand in procurement, you know, getting contracts for specific suppliers there. And you actually see it there, you know, that your supplier has done this that's allowed that to happen for the race. Even something like, you know, the start lights, that sort of thing. Well, that was a contract that passed through procurement. So for me, that was huge to be able to sort of walk around and get to see all these things and go and spend time with some of my suppliers there as well on site. So for me, yeah, that's been my highlight so far.
Charlotte?
I think it's a similar one for me, to be honest. I went to Silverstone recreationally the sort of following year from when I started, and I was still a junior category manager at the time. So I was at that time supporting kind of across the team with sort of additional small contracts and just generally kind of getting involved in a bit of everything. And I think when we first walked into the circuit and started to see all the people everywhere, all the banners and all the big screens and the content and everything, I think it was probably then that I finally thought, oh God, I helped do this. This is quite cool. So that was sort of one of my biggest highlights, I think, is just that first feeling when I realised I had a hand in making that happen in the team, because I went with a couple of colleagues as well, and we all kind of stood there a bit kind of baffled by the whole thing. But yeah, that's definitely one of my highlights, and getting my category and my SIPs, they're two of my biggest highlights. It was amazing when I moved up into a category manager role and finally had a category that was mine. So that's definitely been a career highlight for me.
Good memories. So anyone who's just joined us, we're here with Charlotte Hicks and Janet McCormick from Procurement in F1. Everyone, I'm loving your questions. Please keep sending them through, and we're going to learn a lot about procurement tonight. So we have another question from Jade. I think it's very obvious to see that both of you are big motorsport fans. And Jade asks, did you have an interest in Formula One before you started your career, or has the career kind of influenced it?
Oh, who's going first?
Charlotte, you
go. So the short answer to that is yes, I did have an interest in Formula One before I started working here. I think I have watched the sport since I was very, very young. My dad's a massive petrol head, and so we used to watch a lot of that and motorbike racing. And to be fair, it wasn't until last year when I think we had the Tuscan Grand Prix, I realised that actually my earliest memory was watching a GP on the day my sister was born. So I was already a fan. I'd kind of fallen out of sync with the seasons, but obviously as soon as I started working for F1, your life revolves around the race season. So yeah, I've very much become a very avid and committed fan over the last almost 4 years that I've been working for the company, but I've always loved F1.
And Janet, what about you? Have you always been a petrol head?
Well, I'm 2 wheels over 4 wheels, I'm afraid. So as much as I like and appreciate and enjoy F1, you cut me in a motorbike through and through, quite frankly. I've been riding motorbikes for over 20 years. I do track days, I watch MotoGP, I've even done a race. I didn't crash, I wasn't last, and I beat people, so that was good. So for me, what I love about F1 is I get the technology because it's very similar to MotoGP. That doesn't distract me from getting the job done as well. But yeah, I've loved motorbikes as long as I can remember. So
we're going to be seeing you on the MotoGP grid anytime soon.
Yeah.
Trading procurement.
To be honest, I don't think they'll be giving me a brolly, will they? But no, I wouldn't be doing that kind of racing. Racing terrifies me. I've done one race, that's enough. I don't think I need to do that again.
Doing one at least.
Yeah. And like I say, I wasn't last, so that was fine.
So we have another question from Annette. How do you distribute your tasks during the year? Do you place all of the purchase orders before the seasons and manage distribution from the start onwards? Janet, I think you might be best.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a strange one because we sort of plan our year and the calendar year and the budget and the financial year goes that way. So there tends to be, for the sort of consumables and things that we need to go racing, there tends to be a really concentrated point between sort of mid-January and mid-March to get everything up and ready for the season. But we have other more sort of strategic supply deals that could be a 2 or 3 year deal. So that doesn't necessarily fit in with the racing calendar. There could be orders going through for it throughout the year, but in terms of the actual contract and the heavy lifting and that piece, sometimes it could mean that, contract will start in summer or in autumn, and that will sort of change to sort of sit along with that.
And I just want to point out, because someone's put in the chat, this is being recorded. So if you do have to pop off and you want to come back, or if there's something particularly that you want to home in on and really concentrate, it will be recorded and you will be able to access it at the end of the chat. On that note, Charlotte, is there anything that you particularly think that you would want to know before you entered your job at the moment, or is there anything you can say that would any advice to younger people watching who might fancy a job in procurement, or even older people who want a career change?
I think probably the biggest thing that I would say to anyone is, if it's something that you want to do, then push for it, ask for the opportunities, and sometimes you will get turned down, or someone will be more qualified than you, and that's fine. It gives you a chance to grow in different ways. So I actually went for a different job, a category manager job, but for a different category, before I was given my marketing category, and it wasn't the right time for me. And I think it would have been easy then to be very discouraged, or kind of think, well, this isn't going to work for me. I think if it's something you enjoy doing, then just invest your time in it and do the absolute best that you can, and the right things do come to you when you're ready for them. If there was something that I could have told myself before, it is probably that. Just keep pushing, keep trying, keep working hard, because you do get the right opportunity and the right path. And I absolutely love the job that I do now. I love working with the team that we have. I think we're very lucky, and I love working for Formula One.
And Janet, do you have any words for people who might want to change careers or get into procurement?
I'd say the CIPS website, that CIPS website, has lots of information on career paths into procurement. In terms of procurement in Formula One, you know, I inherited a really good setup from my predecessor, Ruth. I can see you're on here, Ruth, so thanks for checking in. You know, she set out a lot of the policies and processes that we use today and got the function onto a really, really sort of good front foot. And we're just sort of picking that up. I think what I'd advise people is, I find the best skill in procurement is intellectual curiosity. Ask questions about why things are, ask questions about what good looks like. That is the best thing that you'll have. And from that, you'll find out the areas that you're interested in. Do you want to be a category specialist? Well, what have you got an interest in? Could it be engineering? Could it be something in technology? Or could it be marketing like Charlotte? And it is just sort of find out what drives you and use that to sort of help you plot your path that way.
Very, very good advice. I'm sure people out there will find it very useful. So now we have a question from Maria. What is the procurement life cycle like for F1? What is the usual length of contracts for suppliers?
There's no usual length of contract. It really varies. We can do something that's really short term that'll last for one race, or we could be putting in a 5-year deal for something that is a really strategic technology process or project that we're evolving the business through. So it really does depend on the goods and or services that we're getting, and how long we would want to have that for. And also, you know, the world moves on. Longer term contracts can sometimes tie you to something that's outdated by the time you're sort of 2/3 the way through it. So that's also a consideration. So answer to that question, there is no usual time.
Keeps it interesting.
Sorry, Charlotte. Did you?
I was just going to say, it keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
And now we have one to really test your knowledge. Do you have a favourite driver or team? And I want to add, do you have a favourite track along with that?
I am a massive fan of Spa. I went with my dad to Spa in 2019. And whilst it was an awful lot of walking up and down hills, which I didn't realise at the time and would have taken better footwear, it was an amazing track. The setting is amazing. The track and the way that it's set out is really amazing. And I think in terms of favourite drivers, I tend to have a favourite driver over a favourite team. So I'm a big Kimi fan. I've always loved Kimi Räikkönen. I find him absolutely hilarious. And then also some of the newbies. So George Russell, I think, is doing incredibly well. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz are big favourites in my house. So yeah, more drivers over teams, I have to say.
Janet, do you have a favourite?
In terms of team, I would like to see Williams get back to where they need to get back to. In terms of driver, I'd probably say Lando Norris. I think he's got a really good attitude about him. In terms of circuit, I'd say Mugello, but you know, I'm a Ducati fan. I saw Danilo Petrucci win his best race there. So for me, that was so exciting to actually see F1 cars going around Mugello last year.
We all have nice ties to our own little circuits, don't we?
Exactly.
So Julie has asked, what are the key performance indicators for buyers at F1?
Well, it depends on what we're buying. It really does depend. I mean, KPIs will vary if it's goods or services. So again, there's not really one size fits all for that. It's on time is really important. Meeting the requirement is really important. And not failing in supply, that's really important as well.
So then actually coming back to our tracks, Sina has asked, how much does your job differ with different tracks or countries? Are the tracks that are bigger challenges, are there tracks that are bigger challenges than others on the procurement side?
There are some tracks where we need to buy additional things. So for example, we'll be going to Zandvoort this year. We need to buy a floor or rent a floor to put a floor down to have the sort of paddock area, because they just don't have that there. There's some tracks that are challenging because of the location. So, for example, if we're thinking about like a street circuit, that has its own challenges as well, because access points are different and your sort of marshalling arrangements would be different and the plant equipment would be different for that. So I'd say probably Monaco has its own peculiar challenges, but we've been doing it long enough, we know how to make it work. It's always the new circuits that have got like challenges that we won't know until we've gone there and done a race. Portimao last year had strange things going on, mainly because we've not raced there, so we didn't have that experience to sort of draw upon. And then again, it depends on, you know, particular suppliers that you could be tied to for specific circuits, and that again might have its own sort of quirks or challenges as well.
So has the Australian move been a bit of a challenge? Obviously, pushing Australia back to further down the season, has that been a challenge, or has that run smoothly?
I think compared to last year, it's not a huge challenge. You know, I think we had sufficient notice of that one that we could move it back, and it wasn't going to have hugely significant impacts. I mean, obviously, number one priority is safety for everyone, and if it's not safe to race there, then you know we would choose not to do that. But for that's not the worst sort of situation that we found ourselves in. We had enough time there.
Yeah. So Charlotte, Arvo is asking, how do you start or build a career in F1, or how do you get involved in the world of motorsport?
For me, I was looking for a career move and came across the job. We have I think it's F1 jobs or F1 careers that regularly post up our vacancies and things like that. I think I came in at the perfect time. Like Janet explained before, her predecessor Ruth was re-establishing the team and basically creating a procurement team from what it previously was, and I walked in at the right time to fill in a gap that she had. I really wanted to work there anyway, but I also kind of bought into her vision and really wanted to be a part of that process, because it really was at the very beginning of what procurement is now, even in the last couple of years. So I think it's keeping across social media, LinkedIn. We're very active on a lot of those types of platforms now, and just go for it. If you see a job that you think, I would actually really love to do that, I might not have all of the requirements, all of the kind of experience necessary, but if you're almost there, then just jump in and have a go, because you don't know if you don't try.
Yeah, I'd say personally for me, I've noticed that obviously I'm looking to go into motorsport, being a systems engineer. So I have noticed a lot that LinkedIn's very good for meeting new people and seeing what jobs are actually out there. So if you do see a job that you might fancy, maybe drop someone a message and ask them. You might not get a reply, like you said before, but it's always, if you do get a reply, it's going to be very good information. It's going to give you a nice boost up, I think. So Lorena has also asked a similar question about what are your recommendations for someone who is wanting to change industries into F1? Janet, do you have any thoughts? I
think there's two sort of streams of thought that I have here. I think it's a fantastically welcoming environment to come into in F1. I think you can think about the careers that are very like yours, like engineering, or doing the really technical stuff or racing specific careers. But there's also people like Charlotte and I. You can find procurement in pretty much any environment where, you know, people are having to buy things. But we're here and we're doing this in an environment that we like. So don't discount the traditional or the sort of more sort of standardized skill sets like legal, like accountancy, finance, procurement, because Formula One will need those as well. And you are as critical as the person, you know, doing this sort of the pointy end business at the circuit stuff. So, you know, we are here, and it was one of the reasons we sort of wanted to do this tonight, to sort of say, you know, the traditional skills, that you can do. You could learn this anywhere else. So you could come and apply to Formula One to do procurement if you've done procurement elsewhere. So it might not be your first job to do procurement at Formula One if that's what you wanted to do, but it's a transferable skill. So look for the transferable skills as well as the ones that are very specific to what we do as an activity.
Yeah, I definitely think that sometimes when we watch the sport, it's very difficult to understand what actually goes on behind the scenes, like the legal team and procurement and marketing. So we also have had talks about from the women that are in those areas last week. So if anyone here is interested in anything different, like legal or marketing, they are also on the Girls on Track Facebook group. So do please have a look if there's anything specific that you think you might be interested in that has already been discussed. Julie is asking, is the whole purchasing team located at the same place or is it multinational?
So we're in 2 locations normally. Well, at the moment, we're all in our living rooms or kitchens. I mean, that's kind of where we are. We're normally split between the sort of Media and Technology Centre in Biggin Hill and St James's Market, which is more the sort of corporate offices up there. But because our categories sit across both areas, we tend to work in both sites. So I spend a couple of days at one, a couple of days at the other. Who knows what that will be post-COVID. But we tend to sort of just rotate across the sites and just make sure that we're building those stakeholder relationships, that we're going in and having a chat with legal, that, you know, we are being visible and we're being accessible to the people that need our help across the business.
So obviously, since both of you did degrees in psychology, I assume that this isn't the first, like this isn't the job that you wanted to, like particularly thought you would go into or wanted to. So do you both have dream jobs that you could have if it wasn't procurement now?
Well, if apparently Evel Knievel's not a career option.
I don't think so, not with the motorbikes.
Yeah, so I didn't really, and it was one of the reasons I did psychology, because you can be quite specific in what you come out with some degrees. I felt it was less vocational, but would actually allow me to sort of apply skills across whatever I wanted to do. And, you know, I moved to London 2 weeks after I turned 18 to start my degree. I was qualified by the time I was 20. So, well, what am I going to do? I don't know. At 20, that's still really young. It took me a while to figure it out. So, didn't have any ideas apart from wanting to ride bikes or go on junior kickstart or something.
And Charlotte?
I think for me, to be honest, I did psychology at uni because I loved it. I loved it at A-level and I was really passionate about it. So I did it because I really enjoyed it. And I was quite lucky, to be honest, because there were a lot of people sort of in the same age group to me who were really struggling to find things that they wanted to do at uni, and everyone was being encouraged at that time, if you kind of had the inclination, then to go and do higher education. So I think when I came out of that and I'd finished my degree, naturally for me, I thought psychology might be quite good working in sort of HR admin type stuff. So actually the buying job that I applied for, which was my first buying role, it was the only one of about 100 applications that I'd made, which were all the rest of them were all HR admin, office junior, kind of very people focused roles. And this is kind of where I ended up. Thank God for that.
Yeah, so many paths that can lead you to it. We have a question from Donna. Do you find that more women are being encouraged into the industry, or do you feel like it's still male dominated?
In terms of procurement or in terms of the industry generally?
I feel like it's in terms of where you two are based.
Well, our team's sort of 50-50 male-female split, which I'm quite happy with. I think in terms of the industry, if we put Formula One itself as an organisation to one side, it would be good to see more diversity in the supplier base. It's not uncommon for me to be sat in a room with a supplier and be the only female in the room, and there's 8 people from the supplier there. So it would be good to sort of look at it in a wider context and not just be focused on the racing teams and Formula One as an organisation. There's a whole tertiary business around this that absolutely needs to sort of look at this as a thing as well. So I would like to see more diversity there, but certainly Formula One itself as an organisation, I'm finding is definitely, a very welcoming place for women to be.
Yeah, I think that's why it's a really good idea that we're doing things like this to make sure that younger people and younger women can see that this is what goes into Formula One, and you can have a huge passion for motorsport, not want to do engineering, but you can still get into an industry like this. And I think it's very good that schemes like Girls on Track UK exist, so that everyone can, a nice community where we can all see what we can do to help each other out. So thank you very much for taking part, because I'm sure there are so many girls here today, and probably people who are older and want to change careers, who would be happy to talk to you all. And this just also leads on to another question from Sam. They're asking, would you two be happy with people messaging you on LinkedIn and seeing if they have any advice, any specific, if there's a specific situation that they're in, if you'd be able to help out?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I'm really keen to sort of help encourage people to sort of understand what we do, why we do it, and if this is a career path they want to do, happy to sort of give a bit of encouragement.
Definitely, I completely agree. I also think that if I had that kind of opportunity, and this opportunity, I guess, when I was looking to get into this job, I would have gained a lot from it, and I'd want to kind of maximise that. So more than happy.
Because I've definitely learned a lot about procurement. I didn't know how much would go into it. I didn't know how much behind the scenes that it had an effect on it, but it really does. And I assume that a lot of last year wouldn't have been able to take place without everyone working behind the scenes. I think you're looking forward to a more relaxed year this time.
Well, you say that.
Yeah. We're not quite there yet.
It might not be quite as turbulent, hopefully, touch wood, as 2020, but I think we'll definitely be kept on our toes, that's for sure.
Yeah. Good. I don't think we have any more questions at the moment, so I'm just going to ask a few of my own. So I was wondering, what A-levels did both of you do? Just to see what, if we have anybody in the room now who thinks that they could have a career like you two.
I did hires. They're a little bit different. It's like and I don't know if it's still the same in Scotland now, but it's sort of like a 1-year type A-level thing. Did English, maths, geography and art, which is a nice blend. And I did the certificate in media studies as well.
And Charlotte?
So I started an AS in French, psychology, sociology and economics and business. French and me didn't get on, so I didn't make that to AS level, but I continued with the psychology, sociology and economics, and that's what I came out with.
So we have a question from Ava again. How do you think you should gain work experience which is valuable for applying to jobs in F1?
Make it relevant to what you want the career to be. So, think about what actually you want to do, and don't be phased or overly swayed by the organisation you're doing that work experience in. Because if I'm looking at a CV, I want to see what they've done rather than necessarily where they've done it. So I want to see, a depth of work experience there, or an aptitude for something. If you're always going for the sort of brand names or the sort of shiny thing, that's going to be less impressive than being able to come in and demonstrate some really good experience in terms of the skills and activities that you've been able to sort of achieve there.
I think I might add to that just by saying that I think sometimes when you look at a specific job role in the context of F1, you might not think about how much applies from a completely different industry or a different type of job. So it really is kind of breaking those roles and responsibilities down and understanding how they're applied in a different way in a different business, because even if they're not directly related to motorsport, they are still relevant. So it's sort of about picking those things out and understanding sort of what it boils down to day, and kind of, like Janet said, making it relevant.
Having those nice transferable skills that you can use everywhere. So Maria has asked a question. how much have your procurement objectives and subsequent strategies changed in response to the pandemic?
In terms of objectives, it is just always having that thought about, if a race is postponed or cancelled, does the contract stand up to it? So it is mainly just about making sure that we're accounting for that in terms of additional risk, and that the contract will sort of support that and not, put a lot of risk onto us if racing is going to stop. But I think achieving 17 races last year in the circumstances, that taught us a lot about getting the contracts spot on in an ever-changing world and environment. I think we've done okay there.
I just picked up marketing as well when it all kind of kicked off. So I started picking up the category and trying to get all the contracts in place pre-season, and then it all kind of went horribly wrong, and then I was going through and unpicking a lot of what I'd had to do to kind of mitigate that stuff. It was intense.
Louise has asked, regardless of COVID, where would you usually be working, and would you have opportunities to work trackside?
Trackside for us is the exception rather than the rule. We are mainly sort of office based, but that's I explained earlier. I was lucky enough to work at the Italian Grand Prix in 2019. So it's great to have the opportunity to go trackside. You get to see your suppliers face to face. You get to go and have them walk you around and explain to you all the stuff that you've put in the contract that might be really abstract to you before you've gone around there. And what does that do and where does that go? So it's a really valuable experience. There's a couple of reasons that, COVID aside, that we tend not to do that so much, apart from the fact it's an expense to the business. And one of them is sustainability. And it's like, for us, we want to have the fewest number of people possible traveling to races, because we're really sort of focusing on sustainability as one of our sort of pillars of commitment going forward. So it's not a usual thing for us to be doing that. It's nice to do it occasionally, but it's certainly, not something that we tend to do regularly.
I'm sure you'd enjoy it a lot more if you could go around every track and see what you've done.
It's long days. I actually kind of would say I almost prefer being in an office. It's very hard work. It actually makes you appreciate more what people do when they are traveling. The 5 a.m. starts and getting back to the hotel at 10 p.m. and still having to be up and fresh as a daisy the next day. It's very, very hard work, and I absolutely take my hat off to my colleagues that do that regularly, especially last year under those circumstances. They did an amazing job.
Well, everyone behind the scenes at F1 has really done an excellent job to get racing back last year and for it to continue this year. Thank you, ladies. That's been very insightful. And I've learned so much about procurement, and I'm sure everyone on the call has. So a huge thank you for everyone who has joined in today, and for everyone behind the scenes who has helped this happen. If you do have any further questions, feel free to I think we might be able to still access them on the chat if there are any burning questions that can be answered. And also Charlotte and Janet are happy to answer any questions in LinkedIn. There are many links there are links in the chat below that will be the Girls on Track UK Facebook page, Motorsport UK, and Formula One itself. So there'll be career opportunities posted on the Formula One careers page, and there'll be lots of opportunities posted on the Girls on Track. There are many calls going on this week and throughout the final week of February. So there'll be a lot of other calls, a lot of other women talking about what they do in F1. A huge thank you to Charlotte and Janet. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time and telling us all about what you do. Thank you to Girls on Track UK, Motorsport UK and Formula One for making this possible. And please do, everyone, check the links below and join the communities. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely talking to you all.
Bye, Amy.
Bye.